Now, moving on to the talking points coming out of the series, we just touched on a few of them there, but we're going to go a bit deeper into them now and the more general topics coming out of it. For me, this probably won't be discussed too much in the Australian media as they will be focusing on Australia's disappointing result. But for me, this is the biggest interest I have coming out of this series is where does India go from here in terms of selection? We saw in that last test, I think they were missing 7 or 8 first choice players, really. They pretty much had a completely different bowling attack, and then they were missing Jadeja as an all-rounder and Rahul as a batsman and Kohli as a batsman, so they were missing plenty. And they have 2 big series. They host England in a 4-match series in March, and then they go to England in a 5-match series in August, I believe. And I'm not sure if there's any test cricket in and around that, but they're the main ones they'll be looking at and I'll be looking at. But just talking about who is in the mix for them, really, if we're looking at the top of the order for India, it's going to be hard to not go with Shubman Gill again. Very different conditions going from Australia to India, and it's going to be hard to not pick Agarwal and Sharma as they've both been in pretty good form in the last 2 years. They're both in the top 5 run scorers for India in the last 2 years, but for me, you've got to have Gill up there in that first test against England in India. I think he just showed so much promise this series in tough bowling conditions and tough batting conditions against a strong bowling attack. And I think he pretty much showed us he has all the shots, all the tools to be a quality test cricketer for India. And yes, I do believe too much focus is put on these youngsters and they are brought into the team too early. But when you've shown that much potential in your first real series as a starter, I think he's got to be given about a year or so of guaranteed cricket at that opening spot, because I don't think you can be playing around with him and moving him up and down, if I'm honest. So for me, the first opening spot has got to go to Shubman Gill. Then the next one is probably the tough one. You're looking at, your choices are really between Agarwal and Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma has averaged over 60 since the start of 2019, which is pretty incredible. However, he has not had that much success in his whole test career, but they've kind of rejuvenated him up the top of the order. Yes, he didn't have the greatest series in Australia here, only averaging around 30, but I'd probably go with him over Agarwal. Agarwal has scored a lot of runs. He's India's second highest run scorer since the start of 2019, but at a significantly lower average. And a lot of those runs came against Bangladesh, I believe. I think he scored a double ton there. So for me, I'm going with Shubman Gill and Rohit Sharma, just like they did here. Very attacking combination, but I think they are the best 2 men for the job. Then 3, 4, 5 picks itself, really. I don't think there's too much conversation to be had. You've got to go Pujara at 3, Kohli at 4, Rahane at 5. And then 6, I think you've got to go Rishabh Pant. He hasn't had the greatest test cricket career so far, but what he showed in Australia, I think you've got to move forward with him at number 6, which does mean I'm probably leaving Mayank Agarwal out of my team, which is pretty tough and it's pretty stiff. But I can't lie, Pujara's not been that good since the start of 2019, only averaging 31, but there's not too many other guys for the job. Washington Sundar was good on debut, but I think he's got to bide his time a little bit. Vihari has never really taken his chance when he's been given it. So for me, I'm sticking with Pujara, Kohli, Rahane. It has been working. And then I'm going Pant at 6. He will also take the gloves. Then 7, I'm looking at Jadeja. I think, he's averaged over 50 with the bat since the start of 2019. So that speaks for itself, really. And then with the ball, he has been impressive. Not as good as Ashwin, but he's still been impressive. He gets significantly less overs and usually comes on when they need a partnership to be broken. So usually undesirable spells, but he does what he can with it, and he does usually pretty well. So I'm going Jadeja at 7. I'm going Ashwin at 8. I think he's actually still been pretty good recently. I don't think that's really a negotiable spot there. I think Ashwin's got to be there at 8. Then the pace bowlers, this is where it's really tough. We're looking at Ishant Sharma, Umesh Yadav, Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah, and now Mohammad Siraj can't say Shiraz because, well, I don't want to make jokes because he might have actually got racially abused, but that's apparently what they were calling him. Natarajan, he only played one test, so I'm probably not going to be considering him. Saini didn't have a great start to his test cricket career here, so I'm probably going to be leaving him out as well. And Shardul Thakur, he played well, but I'm going to leave him out for now. So it's down to Siraj, Bumrah, Shami, Yadav, Sharma. Now this was really tough because I really liked what I saw from Siraj. He looked like he had the goods. Oh, this is real tough. I'm under the spot here. Bumrah's a lock. You got to have Bumrah in there, and I think you got to have Shami in there. So, because I do believe they are the two most talented bowlers out of that lineup, and they have. Bumrah's only played a handful of tests, but he's been a world beater since he's played, so he's got to be in there. And Shami has shown over the last 3 or 4 years that he's one of the more reliable bowlers in Test cricket. So that leaves me Ishant Sharma, Yadav, and Mohammad Siraj. I'm picking Mohammad Siraj. Ishant Sharma's been on fire since the start of 2019, average of around 15, so it's very tough to leave him out, but I think he could be considered coming in for England. He moves the ball a lot, so I think maybe in India I'm going Siraj, and then England we would look to go Ishant Sharma, or think of a way to get 4 pace bowlers in there. It's very stiff on Umesh Yadav, who is probably in the form of his career at the moment, but he's really just got unlucky with his timing. He's hit form when 4 or 5 other blokes have, but I honestly can't bring myself to dropping Mohammad Siraj after what he put up. He basically took over as leader of an attack in Brisbane, and he put on a stellar show. So I don't feel comfortable leaving him out. So I'm going Siraj, Shami, and Bumrah. And unfortunately, Ishant Sharma and Umesh Yadav, they're going to be running the drinks for me. And Sharma could be looking to come in for the England series in England. So yeah, that's the tough one. That's the main interesting spot I'm looking at. Who do they pick as that third seamer? I do believe Shami and Bumrah, you've got to pick them. But after that, Sharma, Yadav, or Siraj, that's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. So that's where I think the future of Indian cricket lies, with that 11. But they've got great squad depth now. Blokes like Washington, Sundar, Agarwal, they're missing out on my side, but they have shown a lot in the last, when they've been given their chance. So yeah, Indian cricket's getting pretty scary with how good they are becoming. Honestly, in 5 years, I think it's going to be a rare occasion that we ever see India lose in any format. But yeah, it was good to see, as I don't really like Australia, if I haven't said that already in this podcast. So I was pretty pumped to see them lose. But that's what I think the first test lineup should be against England in India. It's going to be interesting to see what they go with, the selectors. I know there's a lot of politics involved in Indian cricket, but moving on to Australia.
Queensland, it's a miracle! Oh yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle.